The next chapter is Dressing Chickens. Now, that's an unusual title. Were we putting clothes on the chickens? No, it is quite the opposite. Do you know what I mean? A long, long time ago, when Grandpa was a little boy, we were living on the farm. It was during the war years, World War II, and there was a general shortage of meat. City folks were rationed as to how much they could buy, and we did have plenty to eat, including pork and beef and chicken, as we lived on the farm and raised our own livestock. We also had vegetables in abundance from the garden. Of course, that was just during season. Every spring we raised chickens. When they arrived in boxes from the hatchery, they were just 1 or 2 day old chicks, having just hatched in the incubators from fertilized eggs. These chicks would be put in the chicken house. They had to be kept warm, fed, and protected from the dog and cats, and even from the rats and skunks. We did occasionally have a hen who decided to sit on her own eggs, and she would have a few little chicks of her own. The chicks were watered and fed chicken feed and ground grain. We cared for the chicks as they grew from fuzzy little babies into chickens with feathers. 2.5 or 3 months later, when the chicks had grown to about 3 or 3.5 pounds, they were called fryers. When the day came to dress the chickens, Tommy and I would first catch a few with the chicken hook. We would then tie their feet together with a loop of string and attach it to the clothesline. Mama cut off their heads with a knife and the blood drained out. We would then dunk the chicken into a bucket of very hot water, which allowed us to pull the feathers off more easily. Finally, the chickens were singed in a flame to remove any of the remaining hair or feather strands. The next step was preparing and packaging the chickens to sell. We cut the chickens into pieces, drumsticks, thighs, breasts, and wings. We saved the liver and gizzards to go along with each chicken. This was a family project. I can remember my mother and father and Tommy and I all taking part. The pieces were then put on a plate and covered with wax paper. There would usually be 20 or so at a time. Then one of our parents would drive us to Decatur, where Tommy and I would go door to door selling each plate of dressed chickens for $1.50 or $1.60. That was a good price, even by today's standards. People were in need, and they were usually quick to buy. Can you imagine buying a dressed chicken on a plate, covered with wax paper from a little boy who arrived at your door? We even wanted the plate back. Question. According to the Bible, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, there's no question. The chicken came first as God created all things. Genesis 1:21 says in part, God created every winged bird after its kind.